Hey everyone, welcome. Welcome to Daylight Savings. If you are in the US and you're watching this today, and we're now again back to 7 to 10 hours apart, depending what time zone you're in, welcome. Because we've actually been in daylight savings for a week already, suffering with this darkness at early hours. Now, as far as other news from the weekend, wow, light just went on. Happy birthday to Tony yesterday. Yesterday was Tony's birthday. So, so we had daylight savings. We have Tony's birthday. It's been a very exciting week. And also we have I feel like a broken record, the Iranian retaliation for the Israeli attack. So, which one is the question? So I had somebody message me yesterday, Kim, you're probably not able to listen to this now because you did say you were like popping up for air and then you were like not going to be in contact again. What's happening? Is there an attack? So what's happening is that over the last couple of days, Iran has decided that it has to respond to Israel's attack of October 26th. And that was in response to Iran's attack of October 1st. And that was in response, and you get the loop. I did a short video about that, like that it's a response to this, in response to this, in response to this, whatever. And it goes on and on. So, wait, let me put this. Can we put that lower? These guys are right there. So Iran did say, now, when Israel attacked, there was talk that perhaps because of the way Israel attacked, that it gave Iran the option of saving face by not responding, because the attacks were at night and there were very few casualties, at least that we know of, and they hit installations, but not like the big ones, like not nuclear apparently. But what apparently Israel did is took out the air defense system, so that it kind of laid the groundwork for a possible future attack. But Iran said, nope, we're not taking the out. We need to respond, and it will be decisively and painfully. And they even said, they put a time frame initially and said it will be before the U.S. elections. Then it said after the U.S. election, and then I don't know, all this stuff. So now, so I think the real answer, the spoiler alert, is no one knows. Like, nobody knows when the attack will be, if the attack will be, and to what extent it will be. Now, all the other attacks in the past have been coordinated in advance with the U.S. and other partners that have said, like, oh, by the way, Iran's going to attack now or tonight, and that's why we sort of knew, like, to expect an attack tonight. So so we are almost 400 days into this war. There is still a war going on in Gaza, although most of the attention and the headlines are focused on the north and between Israel and Hezbollah, which is in Lebanon, which is having a huge impact on Lebanon itself. Now, in Gaza, there's still deaths every day, almost every day, at least, from the Palestinian side, and also the Israeli side. There's still soldiers, like you wouldn't believe, like every so often, every couple of days, you'll hear some more soldiers fell in Gaza. So it's not necessarily under control there. In fact, Israel opened up a whole new offensive strategy to clear out northern Gaza and having people evacuate. And there also have been attacks there, and Palestinians say people have been killed, like civilians have been killed in these attacks. So it's still completely going on in Gaza. There's still 101 hostages. There's still no talk of an agreement for ceasefire, for hostage release. So none of that's going on. I'm just going to jump through a few different headlines. So I think it was yesterday, Israel naval commandos somehow they infiltrated into northern Lebanon and kidnapped somebody that they say is high up in Hezbollah. And just today, they released information, although I don't know. Oh, they just released the news today that the IDF raided southern Syria a couple months ago and captured a Syrian national who they believe is part of Iranian terror networks. I can read you the exact. This is the release that they just put out. Although, so they put it out just now, but it's not from today. During an intelligence-based special operation in Syrian territory that took place in recent months, soldiers from these units detained an Iranian terror network operative in Syria. His name is Ali Suleiman al-Asi, a Syrian citizen who lives in the area of Saida in southern Syria. His activities included gathering intelligence on IDF troops in the border area for future terror activity of the network. So he was detained and transferred for interrogation in Israel. So you can see that there's concurrent to the war going on, which involves a lot of rockets from one side and then targeted strikes from the other, and this is going back and forth. There's also some of these intelligence operations. There was the exploding pagers and other targeted assassinations. I mean, they targeted the building where the leader of Hezbollah was, and he ended up being killed. So there are some targeted intelligence operations that are happening, but for the most part, it is rockets, over 100 a day hitting northern Israel, and Israeli airstrikes on targets, Hezbollah targets in Lebanon. Apparently, Israel, the army has control of a large swath of southern Lebanon, but and they have found like terror tunnels, they found like equipment, they found plans that Hezbollah was like ready to just invade northern Israel. So a lot of that stuff has been taken out, but don't take that to mean that Israel has some sort of upper hand. They have maybe a temporary upper hand control of that region, but even if Hezbollah used, like, let's say 10,000, because we're about 10,000 of the rockets now, even if it's more, even if it's 20,000, they still have well over 100,000, depending on whether any of the military strikes that Israel did, if they did hit any weapons, okay, sure, then they took some more out, but there's still probably 100,000. Also, Hezbollah is believed to have 100,000 in the military force. So not even 10,000 have been killed. So you still have 90,000 operatives. Granted, they're not on the cusp of an infiltration into northern Israel, but Israel cannot promise security to its citizens still, like, even though they say, that there is some sort of control in that area, there's still enough of, Hezbollah has enough launchers in different places that they're still launching 100 rockets and other objects like drones. Like today, there was a 30-minute chase after a drone, and it went, over northern Israel. It landed in open space eventually, or was shot down. Actually, I'm not sure that specific one, but there are some that are getting through the air defense, and they keep going, and so they're setting off sirens like city after city after city. You can see like the path of the drone, like as it heads south, like from southern Lebanon. So that's still happening, and in Israel, more and more civilians have been killed. Like in the last week, there were at least 9 killed by rockets up in northern Israel. And that's not to say, like, I think the Lebanese are close to 3,000 have been reported killed, and tens of thousands wounded. I think 1 million Lebanese displaced. And while many of them may be Hezbollah, it's also affecting citizens who are not involved at all. Now, in Gaza, there's still 1 million people or more displaced. There were only 2 million to begin with. I mean, there's the population is just over 2 million before the war, and still displaced from certain places. And now there is this sort of sweep and sterilization of northern Gaza that is taking place. And it's less in the news. It's less something that I've been able to totally even, get my mind around and figure out exactly what's happening. Um, so just to give you some more little tidbits here and there, little things that were in the news, there's one report that what's happening in Gaza right now, that Hamas does not know where all the hostages are, that it's no longer in their control what's happening. So 101 hostages taken from Israel on October 7th. Some of them were already killed and their bodies were taken. But there is no accounting necessarily of where they're being held or who's holding them. Um, let's see what else. Oh, how nice. Where is this? Reading Lolita in Tehran. I have to reread that book. Have you guys read that? This is a book that I had on my shelf for years. I read it a long time ago. Now I don't remember too much about it, except that it was this like underground book club by women who'd be able to come and, as soon as they got to the house where they were reading the book, they took up their headscarf and read forbidden literature, which is just like what most people call the classics. Anyway, so where is this going on? Oh, in Italy. Okay. So anyway, just that the headline caught my attention because I read the book. I should read it again. Speaking of Iran, I might be interviewing today. If not today, tomorrow, sometime it'll be this week. And so stay tuned for this. Her name is Giselle Sharmad. And I met her, online. I didn't meet her in person. We met over the phone. We were connected somehow 2 years ago. She lives in California, but she is Iranian, now American, and I think actually holds German citizenship. But the reason that we were put in touch is because her father was kidnapped by Iranian operatives. He was kidnapped in Dubai and brought to Iran and put in jail and on trial for charges of like terrorism, attempted terrorism, to subverting the Iranian regime, and he was in jail for 4 years. And just last week, he was executed. So she has been just this on a tireless campaign to bring attention, to get governments to pressure Iran to release these hostages, these Iranians, ex-Iranian, exiled Iranians that they've abducted. There's been abduction attempts in America. It was, more successful over in other countries, but she's been trying to draw attention to this plight and get governments to pressure Iran to release their dual citizens. Now, it's sometimes that's worked. It worked in the case of Marzieh Amirzadeh, somebody else I've interviewed. My interview with her is on my YouTube channel, and she has an amazing testimony. But anyway, it hasn't happened for all of them. And I want to talk to her. I want to get to the bottom of how many others there are, what she's going to do now, how the family's coping, things like that. So anyway, I'm waiting to be in touch with her as well. Now, something else that just came out today is this hostage, 17-year-old Israeli hostage who was kidnapped with two of her brothers who were like 11 and 10 or something. She posted a picture on social media today as a picture that probably the Israeli army found and brought back. And it's of her and her brothers in captivity. And she wrote this really painful post to the other hostages that are there saying, how can we look you in the eyes? And like, how can we look you in the eyes that you're still there, that we've failed you? If I, she talks about sitting in a tunnel in Gaza, being photographed and asking to go home with tired, frightened eyes that a day earlier saw the worst things possible. Her father was killed, or her, I think, father and another sister, or sister and brother. Today is November 3rd, 2024. And on this date last year, I did not know that I would be released in 3 weeks. I did not know if I would even survive, if I would meet more hostages. I was afraid of what my eyes would see. I do not want to see any more disasters, more or pain. So she writes, I see all of you, and then I see your mother fighting for you wherever possible. I see two worlds, and I know what you see there. Look into my eyes, lost and exhausted in the photo, and tell me that I will have to survive like this for another 51 days. I would not believe it. And I'm angry because if they had released me a week earlier, I would have been saved from so much, even one day earlier. So what can I say about them? Talking about the hostages that remain. Soon it will be 400 days. And how much could we save their eyes from seeing? And how much are we adding with every moment of postponement and delay? Look them in the eyes. How much longer will you ask them to survive like this? So, yeah, so the talks are stuck. There's no talk of a release. And, that's where it stands right now, that nobody knows, and even this report that just came out today, that Hamas apparently doesn't even know where the hostages are. Okay, I see Emily has a question. Isn't there a former hostage that took her own life? I don't know if it was a hostage or a Nova. No. I know for sure that there is, Tony's going to look to see if there's a hostage, but there is a Nova party survivor that did take her own life on her birthday about a month ago, like just within the last couple weeks. So there is that, and I think there might be more than one. So the Nova Festival was the all-night rave that was going on that Hamas kind of landed in, and still not sure if they even knew it was happening, but 370 to 400 people were killed.
She survived the October 7th.
She survived the
right.
This
she wasn't
one.
Kidnapped. She survived it.
So this isn't a hostage. This is somebody who just survived the attacks. Just
right.
survived the attacks. But she ended up killing. She couldn't deal with it. And if this is the same family, we saw like the parents were interviewed, and they said we were trying to get like more support, like psychological, like counseling and everything, and it was like there was too much red tape. I actually am gonna have to wrap this up in a few minutes and go pick up a kid. There's so. That was anyway. That's just like that's the heavy news. And then to end on something almost comical, because here we are talking about war, and there's war on several fronts. And will Iran attack, and will they attack before the election, the U.S. election? What's the connection? And then I saw that I think their airspace is going to be closed from November 4th through 6th, which means that it could be like before, during, or after the US election that they attack. But in addition to all that, so while the country's at war and et cetera, there's still politics, right? So the Israeli government, the coalition, is comprised of ultra-Orthodox parties they make up probably about 16 members of the coalition. It's a pretty solid bloc. and they do not serve in the army. So the army is mandatory here in Israel, but somehow they've been getting this, passed for a while. And there's all this debate right now, forcing them to enlist and how to encourage enlistment and stuff like that. So one of the encouragements for enlistment was going to be they're going to take away taxpayer funded childcare for those who don't serve. But the government, since they are able to put out their own laws and get a majority to vote for them, they have advanced to the Knesset, that's the Israeli parliament, a vote on Sunday, today, a bill that would guarantee the continuation of taxpayer-funded childcare subsidies for the ultra-Orthodox community, despite a High Court of Justice ruling that such financial support is not legal in cases where the father should be serving in the army, but is not. So they're still going to get, because they have a majority in the government, they're still going to get away with it. Meanwhile, you got 400 days at war so far, almost. There's no end in sight. There's probably more attacks on the way. I mean, even if Iran doesn't attack, you've got, 100 plus in the north every day, and Israel's got citizens, like tens of thousands of citizens, displaced and not living in their homes. So there's no conclusion. There's no closure coming. Nothing's happening soon. American Airlines, by the way, just delayed its flights to Israel until September 2025. Okay, so we're talking almost another year of airlines not even flying here. So everybody knows this is going to go on, and of course, if it goes on, then the army, which is reusing, the Israeli army's has got their reserves, and so these are guys that have already been in the army, but now they're working, and some of them have businesses, whatever. They keep going back. Like some of them have been back for a year now. They've been enlisted, and that's in addition to the people doing their mandatory service, which is men and women. And for women it's 2 years, and for men it's 3 years. So, and actually men and women, it's like boys and girls, really. And so there is sort of a drain on the military as well, if this goes on. But then you've got the entire population, which is the entire demographic, which is 13% of the population that is not serving. So this is a big issue, internally, for if you're interested in internal Israeli politics, the insider baseball stuff. So anyway, yeah, Emily, that one was for you, the American Airlines. So I'm sure you've got your work cut out for you tomorrow, canceling and rebooking flights or getting payments to people or whatever. As usual, there's probably so much more to report, and but I've got to go. But thank you for tuning in, and stay tuned this week, because whether or not there will be an attack from Iran, hopefully I will have this interview with Giselle Sharmad and really hear from her and all of the warriors who are really trying to come at the Iranian regime in another way, which is to get freedom for their own people. Let me see. One more question. Does the government ever try to at least project an estimated timing to end the war? What do you think? Does the government ever at least project an estimated time? No, I don't think so. My personal answer is no, they do not try to project, because they use vague terms such as until we can restore security to the north, or until we have defeated Hamas. And I don't think, those are tangible things. Hamas is also, it's a movement. It's a politics. It's not just people. And also, if they're embedded in the population, how do you know or not know? And then there's too much there's too much that I can't define on that side, or that I don't think they have defined. And then Like I said about the North, the whole enormity of Hezbollah means that until there's some kind of, and nobody here, I don't think the talk is serious about having a ceasefire with Lebanon, because until there is until that security can be guaranteed, and Israel, there's also there are people who say that Netanyahu is also purposely pushing it off because of his own political interests, that he doesn't want an end to the war. So anyway, there's all those factors. So the government gives vague estimations, and I don't think you can ask Hezbollah what their estimations are as well, and Iran. And I think we're in for a long haul. But I hope American Airlines is wrong on that one. I'm very upset with them. What is this a year? That also means, by the way, that we're stuck here. That means we're stuck, by the way. It just doesn't mean that you can't come here. It means that we don't get out as easy, which is really super annoying. Anyway, on that note, I'm going to go. Thank you very much. And tune in during the week to find out. There's going to be other stuff happening. So happy daylight savings. Happy birthday, Tony. Bye, Tony.